My fiancé's parents demanded I hand over 30% of my business as a wedding gift. I said no. She called me selfish. Then I found out why she really wanted me to sign. All right, Reddit. This happened 6 months ago, and I'm finally ready to share this absolute nightmare. My fiancé's parents wanted me to gift them shares of my business before the wedding. When I refused, everything fell apart. But it gets way worse than that. Buckle up, because this story has more twists than a mountain road. I'm 34 male, and I own an automotive parts distribution company in Colorado. Started it from scratch 11 years ago, with $8,000 in savings and a dream of being my own boss. Spent my 20s working 80-hour weeks, living in a studio apartment the size of a closet, and eating instant noodles while building something real. Let me paint the picture of how hard those early years were. My first office was literally a corner of a 600-square-foot warehouse. I shared with a guy who sold used tires. The smell of rubber and oil was so strong my clothes reeked even after washing them twice. I had one desk, one computer that took 5 minutes to boot up, and a phone line I shared with my roommate back at the apartment. My daily routine was brutal. Wake up at 5 a.m., make calls to Europe before their business day ended. Spend 6 a.m. to noon calling salvage yards and parts dealers across the U.S. Afternoons were for processing orders, inventory management, and driving my beat-up pickup truck to pick up parts personally because I couldn't afford delivery fees. Evenings were for bookkeeping, customer service emails, and building my database of suppliers. The first year, I made $18,000 total. That's gross, not net after expenses. I cleared maybe $12,000. I was making less than minimum wage if you calculated my hourly rate, but I believed in what I was building. The company specializes in hard-to-find European car parts. When someone needs an obscure brake caliper for a 1987 BMW or a specific transmission part for a vintage Mercedes, we're the ones who track it down. The key was building relationships with salvage yards, small suppliers, and manufacturers across Europe who had old stock sitting in warehouses. I became the guy who could find anything if you gave me enough time. Started as just me in that rented warehouse space, making cold calls to salvage yards across 3 continents and building a database of suppliers. I taught myself basic German and Italian just to communicate better with overseas contacts. Spent nights studying European car models, part numbers, and compatibility charts until I could identify components in my sleep. Year 2 was when things started clicking. I landed a contract with a specialty mechanic shop in Denver that worked exclusively on vintage Porsches. They needed parts constantly, and I could deliver what the big distributors couldn't. That one relationship led to 3 more shops, then 7, then 15. By year 3, I moved into my own 2,000-square-foot warehouse. Hired my first employee, guy named Frank, who'd been laid off from a dealership and knew the parts business inside and out. We worked side by side, processing orders and building the inventory system that would become the backbone of the operation. Year 5, I hired employee number 4 and bought my first real delivery van. No more driving my personal truck for business. Started feeling legitimate, like a real company instead of just some guy hustling in a warehouse. Now we've got 12 employees, 2 warehouse locations totaling 8,000 square feet, and we're the go-to distributor for specialty mechanics across the Western states. We've got relationships with suppliers in Germany, Italy, England, and France. Our database has over 50,000 part numbers cataloged with compatibility information and supplier contacts. My dad worked factory jobs his whole life, never made more than $45,000 a year, and watched his retirement get wiped out in 2008. He drilled one thing into my head from day one. Son, build something they can't take away from you. That advice shaped everything I did. Every business decision, every contract, every partnership got scrutinized through the lens of protecting what I'd built. I remember the night Dad lost his retirement. He came over to my apartment. I was about 3 years into building the business, and just sat at my kitchen table in silence for an hour. Finally, he said, "The 401k is gone. 30 years of contributions, wiped out. The company's bankrupt, and we're getting pennies on the dollar." He looked at me with these tired eyes and said, "You're doing it right, son. Build your own thing. Don't trust corporations to take care of you. Don't let anyone else control what you've earned." That conversation lives in my head rent-free. Every time I considered taking on investors or partners, I'd hear Dad's voice. Every time someone suggested I leverage the business with debt, I'd remember his face that night. The business isn't some massive corporation, but it's solid. Last year, we cleared about $280,000 in profit after all expenses and payroll. Not bad for a kid who started with a pickup truck and a Rolodex of junkyard contacts. The company is structured as an LLC with me as the sole owner. No partners, no investors, no debt. Everything I have, I earned. The lack of debt was deliberate. I watched too many businesses go under during recessions because they were leveraged to the breaking point. My competitors would mock me for being too conservative or not thinking big enough. Meanwhile, 3 of those competitors went bankrupt when the economy hiccuped in 2016. I was still standing because I didn't owe anyone anything. I paid myself a modest salary of $85,000 and reinvested everything else back into inventory and infrastructure. Drove a 7-year-old truck that was reliable but nothing fancy. Lived in a house I'd bought for $210,000 with a 15-year mortgage I was ahead on. My only real splurge was a workshop behind my house where I restored vintage motorcycles as a hobby. That workshop became my therapy. When business stress got too heavy, I'd spend a few hours wrenching on an old bike and everything would feel manageable again. I met Vanessa, 31 female, 3 years ago at a car show in Denver. The annual Rocky Mountain Car Show attracts collectors and enthusiasts from across the region. I was there with a booth showcasing some rare parts we'd recently acquired. A complete set of original Weber carburetors for a 65 Ferrari 275, some NOS Fuchs wheels for early Porsches, stuff that makes car nerds drool. She was there with her sister Brooke, and they stopped at my booth around 2 p.m. Most women at these shows are either dragged there by boyfriends or husbands, clearly bored and waiting to leave. Vanessa was different. She asked specific questions about the parts, mentioned her uncle had restored a Jaguar E-Type when she was a kid, and seemed genuinely interested when I explained the provenance of certain components. We got talking about classic cars, business, life in Colorado. She had this easy laugh and didn't put on airs. Gave me her number without me even asking. Said we should grab dinner sometime. I was impressed. Most women I met either didn't understand my work or looked down on it. Vanessa seemed different. That was refreshing after dating women who thought selling car parts was dirty or boring. My last girlfriend before Vanessa had literally said, "When are you going to get a real job?" After I'd worked a 70-hour week to fulfill a huge order that netted $40,000 in profit. That relationship ended quickly. Vanessa worked as an office manager at a dental practice. Decent job, steady income around $52,000 a year. Nothing flashy. She handled scheduling, billing, insurance paperwork, the administrative backbone that keeps a medical practice running. She was good at her job, organized, detail-oriented. I respected that she had her own career and didn't need me to support her. Her family was different, though. Way different. Her dad, Donald, owned a chain of furniture stores across Colorado. Started with one location in Colorado Springs 30 years ago and built it into 7 stores, generating somewhere north of $10 million annually. Her mom, Patricia, came from old money. Her grandfather had made a fortune in commercial real estate in the 60s and 70s, and Patricia grew up in that world where servants and summer homes were just normal parts of life. They lived in this massive house in Cherry Hills Village, one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Colorado. We're talking 7,000 square feet, circular driveway with imported Italian stone pavers, a fountain in the front yard that looked like it belonged at a European palace, professionally landscaped grounds that probably cost more to maintain monthly than most people's rent. The first time I met Donald and Patricia, I showed up in my truck wearing khakis and a button-down shirt I'd bought specifically for the occasion. I detailed the truck that morning, washed, vacuumed, even cleaned the wheel wells. Wanted to make a good impression. Patricia looked at my vehicle like I'd driven up in a garbage truck. Her face did this thing where her smile stayed in place, but her eyes went cold. You know that look rich people give you when they're being polite but thinking you're beneath them? Yeah, that one. Donald came out to greet me with this firm handshake that lasted about 2 seconds too long, the kind that's supposed to establish dominance rather than welcome. His grip was aggressive, and he held eye contact in that alpha male way that's supposed to make you uncomfortable. I held his gaze and matched his grip, not getting intimidated in my first 30 seconds. "So you're the car parts fellow," he said, making it sound like I sold used mattresses out of a van. "I run an automotive parts distribution company," I corrected. "We specialize in hard-to-find European components for vintage and specialty vehicles." Donald nodded like a teacher, acknowledging a student's attempt at a difficult problem. "Entrepreneurial? That's good. Every young man should have drive." The way he said young man felt condescending, even though I was 31 at the time and had been running a successful business for 8 years. But I let it slide. First impressions, keep it smooth, don't make waves. Dinner that night was something else. They had a formal dining room with a table that could seat 12, even though only 5 of us were there. Me, Vanessa, her parents, and Brooke. The whole setup felt like a job interview disguised as family dinner. Patricia served this elaborate meal. She didn't cook it. Their housekeeper Maria did. But Patricia acted like she'd prepared it herself. Prime rib, roasted vegetables, Some kind of potato dish with more butter than actual potato, fancy bread that probably cost $12 a loaf. Right away I could tell they were sizing me up and finding me lacking. Donald asked about my business with that tone people use when they're pretending to be interested but really judging. "So you sell car parts?" Donald said over dinner. Like I'd just told him I collected trash for a living. "I run a distribution company specializing in European automotive parts," I corrected, keeping my voice even. "We source components that are difficult to find through traditional channels. Most of our clients are specialty mechanics and restoration shops working on vintage vehicles." "How entrepreneurial," Patricia said, with that smile rich people use when they're being polite, but thinking you're beneath them. The word entrepreneurial came out like she was describing a cute hobby, not a legitimate business that employed 12 people and generated 6 figures in profit. Like I was selling friendship bracelets on Etsy instead of running a real operation. "The market for vintage parts is actually quite substantial," I continued, not willing to let them dismiss what I'd built. "European cars from the 60s through 80s are appreciating assets now collectors and enthusiasts need authentic parts to maintain value, and we've positioned ourselves as the primary supplier for the Western states." Donald nodded, clearly not impressed. "And how long have you been doing this?" 11 years. Started right out of college with savings from working through school." "No investors?" Patricia asked, and I caught something in her tone I didn't recognize at the time. "No, I bootstrapped the whole operation. Built it slowly, reinvested profits, never took on debt or partners." "How quaint," she said. "Donald's furniture business has 17 investors. It's how you scale properly." Brooke jumped in then, probably trying to lighten the mood. "So Ryan, Vanessa says you have a cool motorcycle collection?" "Just 2 bikes I'm restoring. It's more of a hobby than a collection." The conversation moved on to safer topics, but I felt like I'd failed some kind of test I didn't know I was taking. Throughout the rest of dinner, Donald and Patricia asked questions that seemed innocuous, but felt like they were cataloging my net worth, my family background, my prospects for future growth. When Vanessa and I left that night, she assured me it went well. "They can be a bit intense at first, but they really liked you." I wasn't so sure, but I trusted her read on her own parents. For the first 2 years, things with Vanessa were solid. She had her career, I had mine, and we split expenses down the middle. No power imbalances, no financial weirdness. We were both contributing adults building a life together. She lived in a condo her parents had bought for her when she graduated college, a 2-bedroom place in Capitol Hill, worth probably $320,000. Not huge, but nice. Location was perfect for her commute to the dental practice. I had my house in Aurora that I'd purchased 3 years earlier for $210,000, now worth around $285,000, based on recent comps in the neighborhood. We'd alternate staying at each other's places, go on trips together to places like Moab and Telluride, and talk about the future. She seemed supportive of my business, would ask how big orders went, celebrate when we landed new clients, and understood when I had to work late during busy periods. Looking back, there were signs I should have caught, little comments here and there that didn't register as red flags at the time, but were definitely testing the waters. "My sister's husband bought them a lake house last year," she'd mentioned casually while we're watching TV. "Must be nice to have that kind of money." I'd shrug it off. "Brooke's husband is a surgeon. Different income bracket. Donald says successful men invest in real estate, not just business inventory," she'd drop during dinner conversations. "He thinks you should look into commercial properties. I'm focused on growing the business. Real estate can wait." Patricia thinks it's weird that you don't have a financial advisor. Everyone who's serious about wealth has one. These comments increased after we got engaged, but I attributed it to wedding stress and family pressure. Didn't realize I was being softened up for the main ask. I proposed after 2 years together, did the whole thing properly with a $12,000 ring and a sunset proposal at Rocky Mountain National Park. Took me 3 months to plan. I'd scouted the location twice, checked weather patterns, even practiced the speech in my bathroom mirror like an idiot until I had it down. The ring was a 1.2 carat diamond in a platinum setting from a jeweler in Denver who specialized in estate pieces, not some mall jewelry store garbage. I wanted something unique, something that reflected thought and effort, not just throwing money at a problem. We hiked up to Dream Lake, about 1.1 miles each way, moderate difficulty, on a Wednesday evening in late September. The fall colors were peak, aspens turning gold, the air crisp but not cold. I'd packed a small backpack with champagne, strawberries, and the ring secured in a protective case. At the lake, with the mountains reflected in the water and the sunset painting everything orange and purple, I got down on one knee and delivered my rehearsed speech about building a future together, about how she made my life better. about wanting to spend the rest of my life with her? She said yes, cried happy tears, and we took about 100 photos with the lake and mountains in the background. Posted 17 pictures on social media within an hour. Her friends went insane in the comments. Tons of congratulations, heart emojis, comments about how romantic it was. I thought we were building something real. Thought I'd found a partner who understood the value of hard work and building something together. The wedding planning started immediately, like the next day Vanessa was talking venues and dates and guest lists. I was fine with a simple wedding, courthouse ceremony, nice dinner with close friends and family, maybe a small reception, keep costs reasonable, use the saved money for a house down payment or travel. Vanessa had different ideas. She wanted this huge production at some resort in Aspen with 200 guests, open bar, live band, ice sculptures, the works. Started showing me Pinterest boards with elaborate decorations and talking about hiring a wedding planner to coordinate the vision. The budget kept climbing. What started as a $30,000 wedding turned into $55,000, then $70,000, then $85,000. Every time I raised concerns about the cost, Vanessa would say her parents were contributing half. So what was the problem? Babe, it's one day, our special day. We can't cheap out on our wedding. I'm not saying cheap out. I'm saying maybe we don't need a 12-piece band when a DJ costs a quarter of the price. A DJ? Ryan, this isn't a high school dance, this is our wedding. The venue alone was $22,000 for the weekend. That included accommodations for the wedding party, the ceremony space, and the reception hall. The catering was another $18,000 for 200 guests with an open bar. Photography and videography package, $8,500. Flowers and decorations, $7,000. Band, $12,000. Wedding planner, $6,000. Her dress, $5,500. My tux rental and groomsmen outfits, $3,000. I kept spreadsheets tracking every expense, every deposit, every payment plan. That's how my brain works. I need to see the numbers, understand where the money's going, make sure we're not bleeding cash unnecessarily. But every time I suggested scaling back anywhere, Vanessa would get defensive or upset. You're trying to ruin my dream wedding. I've been imagining this day since I was a little girl. My friends will judge us if we cheap out. The last one got to me. Who cares what your friends think? It's our wedding, not a performance for them. You just don't understand. This is important to me. So I compromised. A lot. More than I should have. Because I thought that's what you do in relationships. You meet in the middle, you support your partner's dreams, even when those dreams come with a six-figure price tag you think is insane. I should have realized something was off when Patricia started asking detailed questions about my business during family dinners. This started around 6 months before the wedding. Right after we'd sent out save the dates, we'd go over for Sunday dinner every couple of weeks. Another tradition I'd agreed to, despite finding these gatherings exhausting. Patricia would corner me in the kitchen or Donald's study and start probing. How exactly is your company structured, Ryan? Is it an LLC, an S-Corp, what? LLC. Single member, pretty straightforward. Do you have any partners or investors? No, it's just me. That's how I like it. Interesting. And what would happen to the business if something happened to you? Do you have succession planning? I've got life insurance and a will that directs everything to my family. Why? Just curious. You're going to be family soon, and family looks out for each other. Another time, Donald pulled me aside during dessert. The bomb dropped 3 months before the wedding. We were at Donald and Patricia's house for Sunday dinner. Vanessa's sister Brooke was there with her husband, and everyone was in good spirits. After dessert, Donald suggested we move to his study for a quick business discussion. Red flag. Number 1, Donald never wanted to discuss business with me. He'd made it clear he didn't consider my operation to be in the same league as his furniture empire. We sat down in his mahogany-paneled office that looked like something out of a corporate drama. Donald poured himself a drink, offered me one, which I declined. He launched right into it. Ryan, you're about to become part of this family, Patricia, and I have been discussing how to best welcome you into the fold, and we've come up with something we think is fair for everyone. I waited. Nothing good ever follows that kind of preamble. We'd like you to transfer 30% ownership of your company to us as a wedding gift. Call it a gesture of trust and commitment to the family. I actually laughed. Thought he was joking. He wasn't. You want me to give you a third of my business? The one I built from nothing? Not give, Patricia corrected, joining us with her own drink. Think of it as bringing the family into your success. We have business experience, connections, capital. We could help you grow beyond your current limitations. My business doesn't need growth beyond what I'm planning, and I definitely don't need partners. Donald's expression hardened. Son, You're marrying into a family with significant resources and reputation. We're offering you a chance to be part of something bigger. Surely you can see the value in that. What I see is you asking for a third of something you had no part in building. The temperature in the room dropped about 20 degrees. Patricia set down her glass with a sharp click. Ryan, I think you're misunderstanding the opportunity here. Many young men would be grateful for... I'm not many young men, and my company isn't negotiable. We went back and forth for another 30 minutes. They tried every angle. Called it family unity, smart business, mutual benefit. Suggested I was being short-sighted and ungrateful. Implied that refusing was an insult to their daughter and their family. I held firm. No way in hell was I handing over equity in my company to people who'd barely respected my work until it became something they wanted a piece of. Finally, Donald stood up. Think it over, Ryan. We'll discuss this again before the wedding. I'm sure you'll see reason. On the drive home, Vanessa was quiet. Finally, she spoke. You could have at least considered it. Consider what? Giving away my company? They're trying to include you in the family. This is how they show they accept you. By taking what I built? That's not acceptance, Vanessa. That's extortion. You're being dramatic and selfish. They're offering to help grow your business. I don't need their help. And if that makes me selfish, then I guess I'm selfish. She didn't speak to me for the rest of the drive. Over the next week, the pressure campaign intensified. Donald called, Patricia called, even Brooke called to tell me I was making a mistake and hurting Vanessa. The narrative they were pushing was that I was putting my pride above my future wife's family. Vanessa started treating me differently. Cold, distant. When I tried to talk about the wedding or anything else, she'd give one-word answers or change the subject. She started spending more time at her parents' house, saying she needed space to think. 2 weeks before the wedding, I got a text from Tyler, my best friend, and the guy who'd helped me start the company back when we were both broke and ambitious. Dude, I think you need to see this. He sent me a screenshot from someone's social media, a private post that one of Vanessa's friends had shared. It showed Vanessa and some guy at a restaurant, sitting way too close, her hand on his arm, both of them laughing. My stomach dropped. Who's that? I texted Tyler. Kyle something. Works at the same dental practice as Vanessa. I did some digging. They've been going to lunch together a lot lately. I stared at that photo for a solid 5 minutes, my brain trying to make it innocent. Maybe it was just a coworker lunch. Maybe the photo caught an awkward moment, but my gut knew better. I called Vanessa, straight to voicemail, texted her, no response. Drove to her condo. Her car was there, but she wouldn't answer the door. That night, I did what any man with trust issues and a suspicious mind would do. I checked our cell phone records. We were on a family plan because it was cheaper. I'd never looked at her calls before because I trusted her. Big mistake. Pages and pages of calls and texts to a number I didn't recognize. Late-night conversations, hours-long calls, text exchanges that numbered in the hundreds, all of it ramping up right around the time her parents made their demand. I ran the number through a contact search. Kyle Henderson, hygienist at her dental practice. The pieces started clicking together in my head. The sudden distance, her parents' aggressive push for business ownership, the timing of it all. I spent the rest of the night going through our finances. Found credit card charges I didn't recognize. Romantic restaurants. Hotels. One particular charge stood out. A hotel in Vail. Same weekend, Vanessa said she was at a dental conference. I pulled the conference schedule online. There was no dental conference in Vail that weekend. The betrayal hit different than I expected. Not explosive anger, just this cold, crystalline clarity. Everything made sense now. The urgency to get married. Her parents demanding equity in my business. The sudden cheating. It was all connected. I called Tyler at 2 a.m. I need your help. Tomorrow, bring your camera and your laptop. What are we doing? Protecting everything I built. The next morning, I went to my lawyer. Same guy who'd set up my LLC 11 years ago, showed him everything. The demands from Vanessa's parents, the phone records, the hotel charges, the whole picture. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to make sure that if this wedding gets canceled, I'm protected. And I want documentation of everything in case they try to come after me or the business. He nodded. Smart. Let's start with an inventory of assets and a timeline of events. We spent 3 hours documenting everything. Every conversation with Donald and Patricia, every text from Vanessa, the phone records, the credit card charges, the social media posts. Built a file that proved exactly what had happened and when. Then I had him draft a document explicitly stating that my business was and would remain my sole property. that no verbal or implied agreements existed regarding ownership transfer, and that any claims to the contrary were false. Next stop, the wedding venue. I sat down with the coordinator and explained that the wedding was likely getting canceled. Asked about the deposit situation. Turned out Vanessa's parents had put down $15,000, and I'd paid $8,000 for the catering and bar service. If we cancel, what happens to the deposits? Depends on timing. More than 60 days out, you get 50% back. Less than 60, you lose it all. We were 13 days out. That money was gone regardless. I took a breath. Cancel it. Today. She looked shocked. Are you sure? That's a significant financial loss. I'm sure. Send confirmation to my email only, not the bride's. Back at my house, I started packing up Vanessa's things. Not throwing them out, just boxing them neatly. Every piece of clothing, every makeup item, every book and decoration she'd brought over. Took me about 4 hours to erase all evidence she'd ever been there. Tyler came by as I was finishing up. You really doing this? Already done. Wedding's canceled. Just need to tell her now. Want me to be here when she shows up? Yeah, might get messy. Vanessa finally responded to my text around 6 p.m. Said she was coming over to talk. I told her the door would be open. She walked in looking defensive, like she'd prepared for a fight about her parents' demands. Instead, she found all her belongings boxed up in the living room, and me sitting calmly on the couch with Tyler standing nearby. What is this? She asked, looking at the boxes. Your things. Figured you'd want them at your place. Why are all my things in boxes, Ryan? I pulled out my phone, opened the photo Tyler had sent me, showed her. Who's Kyle? Her face went white. That's just a coworker. We were having lunch. 3 times a week for the past 2 months? With hotel stays? That's a lot of lunch. I pulled out the printed phone records and credit card statements, spread them on the coffee table like I was presenting evidence in court. I know about all of it, Vanessa. The calls, the texts, the hotels, the lie about the dental conference. She started crying. Standard playbook. It's not what it looks like. We're just friends. You've been so distant and angry since your parents tried to extort me for shares in my business? Yeah, that did make me angry. Weird how the cheating started right around the same time they made their demand. I wasn't cheating. Don't insult my intelligence, I've got receipts. Literally. Tyler cleared his throat. Just so we're clear, I'm recording this conversation. For legal purposes. Vanessa's tears stopped immediately. What? You can't do that. Colorado's a one-party consent state, I said. And right now, I'm the party consenting. Her expression shifted from fake crying to genuine panic. Ryan, please. Can we talk about this privately? No. Everything that needs to be said can be said right here. Wedding's canceled. Venue knows, catering knows. I'll be notifying guests tomorrow. You need to pick up your stuff within 48 hours or I'm donating it. You can't just cancel our wedding. Already done. Confirmed this morning. She pulled out her phone. Started texting frantically. Within minutes, my phone started ringing. Donald. I declined the call. Patricia tried next. Declined that too. Your parents can't fix this, Vanessa. You made your choices. Now live with them. This is insane. You're throwing away 3 years over a misunderstanding. It's not a misunderstanding, you cheated. Your parents tried to steal my business. And judging by the timing, I'm guessing the plan was to get me to sign over equity, then you were going to divorce me, and they'd own a piece of my company forever. The look on her face told me I'd hit the target dead center. Tyler whistled low. Damn, that's actually diabolical. So now what? Vanessa asked, voice small. Now you leave. Take your boxes. Don't come back. We're done. She tried a few more angles. Begging, crying, anger, threats. None of it worked. Finally, she called Brooke to come help her move her stuff. While we waited, she sat in silence, occasionally glaring at me like I was the villain in this story. Brooke arrived and gave me the death stare. You're making a huge mistake. Noted. Help your sister with her boxes. They loaded up Brooke's SUV with all of Vanessa's things. Right before leaving, Vanessa turned back. My parents are going to destroy you for this. They can try. I've got lawyers and documentation. What have you got? Hotel receipts with your boyfriend? She slammed the door on her way out. Tyler and I sat in silence for a minute after they left. You good? He asked. Better than I've been in months. The next 3 days were chaos. I sent a mass email to all the wedding guests. Kept it simple and professional. Due to circumstances beyond our control, the wedding between Vanessa and myself has been canceled. We apologize for any inconvenience. No further explanation will be provided. Thank you for your understanding. My phone exploded. Calls from family, friends, distant relatives I'd forgotten existed. I gave everyone the same answer. It didn't work out. I'm fine. Please respect my privacy. Donald tried calling me 7 times the first day alone. Left voicemails that progressed from, "We need to talk," to "You're making a serious mistake," to "There will be consequences." I saved every single one. Then the threats started getting more specific. A lawyer representing Donald and Patricia sent me a letter claiming I had verbally agreed to transfer business equity and that they had witnesses who would testify to this agreement. They were threatening to sue for specific performance. My lawyer responded with our timeline, documentation, and a counter threat. Any frivolous lawsuit would be met with a countersuit for harassment and abuse of process. Plus, I'd go public with Vanessa's affair and their attempted extortion. The threat stopped after that. But Vanessa wasn't done making my life difficult. She started posting on social media. Vague things at first. Sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you deepest. I gave 3 years to someone who threw it away over nothing. Real victim mentality stuff. Her friends ate it up. My inbox filled with messages from people telling me I was cruel, heartless, and made a huge mistake. A few of our mutual friends stopped talking to me entirely. Believing her version of events, I didn't defend myself publicly. Didn't post anything. Just let her dig her own grave while I focused on my business and moving forward. Then, one of Vanessa's co-workers, a woman named Jennifer, who I'd met at a few work events, reached out. "Ryan, I don't know if you want to hear this, but I thought you should know what Vanessa's been saying at work. She's telling everyone you were abusive and controlling, that you isolated her from her family, and that she's devastated." Thanks for the heads up, Jennifer. There's more. Kyle got promoted to office manager last month. Vanessa's position. Word around the office is that she and Kyle have been having an affair for at least 6 months, and the partners found out they were going to fire them both, but Vanessa quit first. That explained why she'd been so eager to get married and get access to my business. She was about to lose her job. I appreciate you telling me. I saw how she treated you at the holiday party last year. You deserve better. Over the next few weeks, the truth started coming out through the grapevine. People who'd been fed Vanessa's sob story started hearing the other side. The hotel receipts. The affair. Her parents' attempted business grab. The calculated timeline of it all. The social media posts from Vanessa's friends defending her slowed down, then stopped entirely. A few people even reached out to apologize for believing her story. Without hearing mine, Donald and Patricia went radio silent after their lawyer backed down. I heard through mutual acquaintances that their reputation took a serious hit in their social circle. Turns out wealthy people don't like it when you get caught trying to con a business owner into signing over equity through marriage fraud. Vanessa and Kyle apparently lasted about 2 months before imploding. According to Jennifer, Kyle dumped her when he realized she was unemployed, in debt, and came with way too much family drama. Last I heard, Vanessa moved back in with her parents and was working retail at some boutique her mom's friend owned. Donald's furniture business hit some financial trouble, and he had to close 2 locations. Karma has a way of working things out. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel and help us bring you more and better stories. Thanks.